Hello, Roy. I wasn't able to build one, but like I said, I'd created a quick little video of the issue that I'm having. It seems to make a lot more sense. I'll make this as quick as possible. As you can see, I have a form that has locations. I have a state. It's a TwwLookupCombo Box. I have the combo box. I have the lookup source set to a bind source, DB2, and the lookup field is set to state GUID. If I pull the bind source, I'm sorry, it's a little messy. I'll pull those out so that we can see what I have here. So we see the components that I have here. So this is the SM states. This merely returns a listing of every state in the United States from a database. The columns that it has, we don't even have those in there, but if I add all the fields, you can see I have a state GUID, an abbreviation, a state name, and a country name sitting inside of there. I have a DS state data set to the SM states. I have a client data set, a T-client data set, and that's linked using the provider of DS state. The bind source here is linked to CDS states too. If I go to do a live binding on it, I'll just bring this up just so that you can see. You can see that the combo box is not bound to anything. It's floating all by itself. The issue comes when I record this, or when I go ahead and run the software. It's a chance to run really quick. Put in admin. I go into here, I go to locations, double click. I'll go through that here in a second. So when the software first loads, one of the things that we have it do is at the very top here, I have it, I set the locations. And when I set the location, it says, okay, open up the state. If the state GUID is blank, which is an indicator back to our data snap engine that we're looking for all the states. Session GUID is nothing more than just security and extra level security that we had. Just go ahead and open it. So it opens it. And one of the things that we do here is we're actually copying in. I'm just saving this as a temporary value. I'm copying in what the state link GUID is. That's one of the values that's returned. And the CDS state, we go to do a locate on it. I want to make sure that we're locating and finding the correct state. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is, if you'll notice that the CDS locations is the primary one back here. The idea is that I want to list every state that comes back. However, this particular location needs to point to a particular state. So we're on the CDS state. I'm doing a state here. I'm saying, okay, locate and go directly to that state. I'm also setting the text on it just so that the text is pointed. In your email back to me, you mentioned that I have to take and set the lookup value. Well, the lookup value was already set. That was set at the visual side. At least that's how we used to do it. If I'm doing something wrong there, please let me know. So with that running like that, what I end up with is, of course, Spiotos, our address here, and then I have the state of Nevada here. And if I hit the drop down, you'll notice that it is pointing to Nevada. It's true and correct. Now, where the issue comes in is when I go to, say, Washington, and that's why I have it stopping here. At this point, the control has told the client data set, at least in our mind, the control has told the client data set to move to a different record. And if we look at the S state here and I evaluate this, indeed, if I do an evaluate modify, indeed, it has changed its value from there, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. If you just look at the end, you'll see that it's 14C1 as part of the GUID. So I'm going to write that down, 14C1. Okay, and we'll go ahead and www.edit1 text is nothing more than this box here so that I can see what it is. So I know that this is definitely Washington. Up here, it shows Washington. Now, what we find that's interesting is if we hit the down arrow here, you can see that it's slipped from Washington. It's now pointing inside of the data set. For some reason, it's pointing to the very first record in the data set. Even though when we did a change here, and we did show Washington, the record itself is now not pointing into the client data set to the same record. So if I go to save this out, one of the things that I better put a break on it, and I'll show you here because this is where the issue comes in. When I hit save, we know that Washington is 14C1, so I'm going to hit save, and I come in here. So if I look in and evaluate a state right now, and I throw debug on here, evaluate, modify, I see that the state is still 14C1, and that's because we set that on the combo edit state change here. Now what's interesting, and where we're really struggling, is right here. This is the client data set. This is the state GUID. This should be looking at the same thing as S state, but what's happening is it's not. If I look at this S string right here, and you can see it over here. Let's see if I can bring that up into the debugger for you so you can actually see it. You'll see that it's pointing to 18D3. That's California. So for some reason, what we're having here, so I'm gonna let this thing turn loose. What we're having is even though I saved Washington and the first time through it shows Washington here, if I choose Texas now and pick that one and hit save, what happens is that it's not updating. When I pick the different state, the client data set is not moving to that. It's always resetting and going to the first record in the data set, and I'm not sure why. And so let me see if I can bring it up and show you one more time. There's no live bindings on any of it. So I can go ahead and close that. So like I said, no live bindings. So the state is set, or the TwwLookup combo is set to the bind source DB2 with a lookup field set to the state GUID. That is the unique field. That's the way that we used to always do it. The client data set is set to the DS state. The DS state is set to the XM states back here. And so in fact, we're not even really using the live binding source here. Could the live binding source is DB2? I'm not sure if that could be the problem that we're having with this or not, but like I said, the minute that this component asks this client data set to move, it always ends up going back to the first record in the list. So anyhow, any help would be greatly appreciated. You've always been superb. Thank you so much.